How do you do? The Box Office Pulp Board feels it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We're about to unfold a cinematic commentary track, made by a group of men who sought to create a podcast after their own ravings, without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with three great mysteries of the internet: analysis, observation, and deconstruction. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel you'd not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to, well, we've warned you. Now, to pause and refresh. For your convenience, we have an attractive refreshment stand in the lobby, with buttered popcorn, golden good and hot from the popper, your favorite candies, wholesome and rich, plus delicious Dr. Pepper, so bright and bracing with a tang and tingle unmatched by any other beverage. Enjoy an ice-cold Dr. Pepper at our beverage stand right now, and then return to fully appreciate this bop and a movie commentary track. Enjoy.
Welcome to Box Office Pulp, your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, moxie, and tonight, yet again, I'm running out of ways to say more Saw. I gotta reach in deep and find a way to be like, Saw 5, you want it, here it is. I don't have it in me, folks. But anyways, we're back with another bop in a movie, and this time, it's Saw 5! I'm your host, Cody. Joining me today are my co-host, Mike. Say hello, Mike.
You know, the head box strap is maybe one of my favorites, honestly, of the series. Even though it's you know, there's no way to really win it or anything. But the thing that always bothers me is Hoffman really did just go to the store and get jugs of water, and I just feel like Jigsaw himself would have made like cool canisters to hold the water
with the spiral logo on them.
Yeah, just like a little bit more. He would have taken
the time to paint them.
Yeah, just a little bit more something other than just, you know, the office water jugs.
Well, here's my problem.
Showmanship, Lieutenant. Showmanship.
If Jigsaw himself were getting the water, he would not go to Target and make sure he got distilled water or mountain spring water. He would go find an actual leaky faucet somewhere in the most shrapnel-infected city bunker. Make sure that you get tetanus just by looking at this water, and he would fill the jug up with that. Like, it'd be brackish, it would be muddy. That's what he would use. He would probably actually be liquefied pig like he's done before.
Water connected from the same squalid tenement you had condemned last year, Congressman.
Yes. Jamie gets it. Also, say hello, Jamie.
Okay, to do a complete 180, am I the only one who could not get over this watch through with how much Straum looks like Jason Lee? Specifically, like a grizzled Brody.
He does, yeah. I could see it. Yeah.
This is the timeline where he doesn't get the Tonight Show and becomes a detective.
Now I'm even more sad that he gets just squished up at the end. Spoilers. Man, we should have just kept talking about the mud water.
God, if I had a nickel for every time you said that.
Speaking of mud water, I think it's time we introduce today's cocktail for the movie. Much like Saw 5 throwing curveballs and bringing in a new director and focusing on a new Jigsaw, we're rolling with a classic cocktail that's had some changes. Let's start with the good normal side first. We're going to make a classic Mai Tai. So folks, for this part, and this is delicious, you can just drink this by itself. I'd recommend stopping once I finish the instructions. You're going to need 1.5 ounces of a golden rum. You're going to need 0.5 ounce of an overproof or dark rum. 0.75 ounces of lime juice, 0.75 ounces of orgeat, and 0.5 ounce of dry curacao. And if you want to get real fancy, you can drop like 2-3 drops of saline solution in there, really bring the flavors, make them pop. That's it. Throw all those together, chill them out, and you've got a really good drink. Now, a lot of people like to fuck with the Mai Tai and throw in things like pineapple juice or orange juice, and they're not really Mai Tais anymore. That's not how I'm fucking with mine. I made that Mai Tai just described. It's gonna be delicious, I bet. Instead, though, of just leaving it there, we had to include Malort. And so for the next step, I'm going to give you the instructions on how to make Malort alcoholic foam. So what you're going to need for this, one, special material. You're going to need a whipped cream dispensing canister. They go for like $40 online. You're going to need some CO2 or NO2 cartridges, pressurized gas to make sure this really foams. Those can be bought online as well, or whoever sells you whippets, just use one of those. You're going to need an ounce of Malort. You're going to need 0.8 grams of methyl cellulose. You're going to need 0.25 grams of xanthan gum. You're going to need 0.2 grams of orange blossom water. You're going to need 0.3 grams of citric acid. You're going to need 10 drops of saline solution. I typically do about a quarter ratio salt to water, and then just shake that up. And then 120 grams of water. You're going to take all those ingredients I just listed. You're going to throw them in a blender. Make sure you get a nice even foam. You're going to throw that in your whipped container, your canister, close it up, add the nitrous charge to it, shake that, put it in your fridge for at least 30 minutes. It's important it stays in the fridge for at least a half hour to chill out, and it also helps the foam kind of combine and expand, I guess. I'm no chemist. I'm making a lot of this up, or stealing it from smart people to me. By the time you're done, you will have an alcoholic foam made of Malort.
Oh,
And it's going to be stiff. I don't know what it's going to taste like because I haven't tried this yet. This is all live, folks.
probably stiff.
Probably stiff. Let's get some ASMR going. I'm going to try and pour this next to the microphone. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Oh god, hold on. I got to get a photo for the group. It looks so good. It's distressing because it looks really good and it's going to taste like shit. I can just guarantee it. Ooh, yeah. This one started off with some really strong peaks and valleys, and it looked beautiful. It did start to level out fairly quick after that. I think the problem is the Malort is too alcoholic. A lot of people recommend making these kind of alcoholic foams with something that's only 20% ABV, and Malort's about a 35%, if I'm remembering right. All right, well, let's give this a shot. Ooh, sorry, I licked some of the foam off the glass, and all I got was foamy Malort. Oh no, it's too thick. The Mai Tai can't penetrate the foam.
For God's sake.
All I got is it's just foam of the Malort. Oh god. You wouldn't think an ounce would be enough to like make you feel miserable, but oh no, now it's leaking.
You've invented alcoholic cement.
Oh man, it looks beautiful. It's a nice thick head. It's everything you could ask for in a foam, except for the taste is god awful.
I look forward to the eventual box office pulp mixology coffee table book we release, where we get all of these beautiful light boxed photos of these drinks you craft that I always see on your Facebook and Instagram, but with transcriptions of you tasting them on the show. Just blah.
This was just turning into Patrick Warburton slowly.
I only have worse ideas from here, but hey, Peter, you ever drink human sadness in the form of foam?
Was that dying Uncle Ben?
The Malort got to me. It's in my pipes.
Peter.
All right, well, this went worse than expected. I thought I was going to have like a little bit of a nasty aftertaste and then delicious Mai Tai, and I can't even get to the Mai Tai. It's under a blanket.
No, that's in your intestines now.
Box Office Pulp recommends not fucking with the Mai Tai.
That's actually true. Just leave it alone. Don't put the other shit in there. Make other drinks if you want to fuck around and have something fruity. I hate this so much.
That would be at the bottom of the page in italics.
I gotta fucking chew this shit and it gets stuck in my... I got like a milk mustache looking thing, like I'm trying to smoke that milk.
Good. This is going well.
Oh,
going well.
Let's just start the movie. This is awful. It's so bitter. Right. It's so fucking bitter.
You know who could have benefited from having a milk mustache? Agent Straum. Let's go.
Yes. Agent Straum, everybody. We are watching the unrated edition, just so you know which one to get. That tends to be the one most available, as always. I will count to 3. After I say 3, we will press play. Are we ready?
We will leave you behind. You better get ready.
1, 2, 3.
Bum, 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 bum. Anyways, folks, let's get those movie facts in.
Jesus, that drink is actually kind of beautiful.
Right? If it was just a looks thing, I'd be proud of this drink. Anyways, this movie was directed by David Hackl. He was the production designer on the previous Saw films, I believe starting from 2 on, and had directed second unit for Saw 2, 3, and 4, along with Repo, the Genetic Opera. So he has very strong ties with the Saw franchise.
So real quick, Cody, I'm just now seeing the image, and that's the stuff. You made the stuff.
I did!
You have the stuff in front of you.
Oh, no! I should have put this in my stuff mug.
Why wasn't it enough, Cody?
Also, we can't go by without the weird direct-to-video titles that are completely different than the rest of the series that bother me so much.
Step
anyway.
down.
Yeah. Anyways, this entry
Saw
was written...
facts. Come on.
Saw facts.
Saw facts.
This entry
As
was
we enter
written
the
by
Hellraiser apartment here.
Yeah, there's like a lot somewhere that the Weinstein brothers just loan out for these kind of productions. This was written by Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan. They returned from Saw 4. We've already talked about them a little bit, so I'll keep running by. Our cast, mostly returning faces here. Tobin Bell manages to get some small appearances as Jigsaw. Costas Mandylor takes over really as our prime antagonist. Scott Patterson is Agent Straum, who is, I guess, the protagonist of this one. And we've got Betsy Russell returning as Jill. Our cinematography is by David A. Armstrong, as always. Same with the music. That's Charlie Clouser back. Again, it's just the same names over and over. I don't even know why I bother repeating them.
Yeah,
our editing is
people.
Yeah, you know them all.
Team Saw.
Team Saw, essentially. Same producers, same everything.
Only slightly less sexy than Team Silent.
This film was released on October 24th, 2008, 1 year after the previous entry, as it was the custom of the time. The budget was $10.8 million, which was pretty close to what the last two were budgeted at, I believe. Like they kind of leveled out at about $10-11 million for these films. The worldwide box office was $118 million, which was a fairly steep decline from the previous entry. And this one actually opened in second place behind High School Musical 3 senior year, despite it being Halloween weekend. So I'll have more to say on that later, because the box office decline here kind of spelled doom for the Saw franchise. And looking back, you can see this is kind of a peak in some ways for the franchise.
Please tell me you're going to talk more about High School Musical senior year.
That's all I have prepared for the second half of the movie. Those are all my notes. So I enjoyed this intro because Costas Mandylor, we're going to find out, set this whole trap up, did everything he could to make it look like a real actual Saw trap, only he didn't make it winnable. It was, to kill this guy who fucked up his own personal life. But I love that he went to all the trouble of actually making the video, actually playing the video, putting the guy through the trap and giving him some amount of hope he could get out if he hurt himself. And it's like, no one told this guy he could have just murdered him and put him in a Saw trap after the fact, and everyone would have been like, yeah, okay, Jigsaw again.
I would love to see the prequel movie of Costas Mandylor. Just looking up engineering guides online, trying to build this thing.
I have a lot to say on this scene.
This is the most elaborate murder. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
It's very, I just have a lot to say. So, I do like how, in a way, that actually speaks a lot to Hoffman's personality. It is pure torture, and that's why they're using the pendulum, which, of course, may or may not have actually been used as a torture device or just maybe like to scare people or something. But regardless, it's popular because of the Poe story.
Right.
And a lot of Hoffman's traps are justice-based, like old-timey justice-based, particularly like the Inquisition and things like that. Some of Jigsaw's have been too. But they have actually gone back and like the ones Hoffman helped with were those specifically, which I like. Here is also the problem with this scene. So this is a very cool trap. It is cool to have a pendulum trap. It is cool and interesting and speaks to Hoffman that he's using a pendulum. It is clearly an idea, and as it's described on one of the producer commentaries, it's an idea the producers have had for a trap for a while. And no one stopped to go, but how the fuck did Hoffman, of all people, build it? It's too big for a dude pretending to be Jigsaw once. And it's like all very cool in that regard, and it's a great effect. This is a cool opening scene, but there's no logic there. It doesn't make sense that this is Hoffman before Jigsaw taught him everything. that he built
Especially
us.
considering that this is supposed to be at the very top floor of an abandoned building. Like, this is the storehouse where the gears of the elevators are stored. So it's like he lugged all this shit up here.
Far be it from me to be like the well actually guy, because I'm always the one who nitpicks. But I feel like in this scene, especially just seeing his peephole there, it's supposed to be very, very Giallo, so you're just supposed to forgive how silly the logic is.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where I have a hard time getting around it, but it's also like, we're 5 movies into this franchise at this point. You got to forgive it when it's like, none of this truly makes
sense. It doesn't
overtly
overtly bother me. It's just like, not a canary in the coal mine kind of thing, but like, this is indicative of like the problem with these movies, like onwards, even though I get into it, but I actually came around to like 5 now. It's weird. We'll get into it.
Mike also had a gas leak in his house, so
yeah, I'm dying slowly.
I feel like it would be a lot more forgivable if it weren't specifically Hoffman. I don't know why the idea of Hoffman doing epic supervillain things will forever be funny to me.
I'm sorry, I finally got to a point where I got the Mai Tai and Malort in the same gulp. And I was like, oh, I'm free. It's delicious. Oh, no, it's not. Ooh. And it really fucked
you can
up the whole
stop drinking it, you know.
No, I made this challenge for myself.
Yes, to get to that key at the bottom, every commentary.
That's the only way out.
Just shove a pen into your throat so that way it drains out.
So before we get too far away from it, I was happy to at least see them returning to the peephole for the first time in like 4 fucking movies.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to watch.
An aspect that got kind of immediately taken by the wayside with the sequels.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a big chunk of this opening was shot by Bouseman for the end of Saw 4, correct?
Yeah, when Hoffman's leaving the building, that was actually shot for Saw 4.
They talk about in the commentaries how they had to remake the set like for 3 different movies because they never kept it. They were writing these things so fast it never occurred to them like, hey, are we just going to have a bunch of flashbacks to like the same scene and need the same exact set over and over again?
I'm happy that in the commentary, Hackl throws a lot of shade towards the producers that just auctioned off chunks of the sets between movies.
I mean, they did a fantastic job making it look exactly the same. Like, I guess I'm not being too nitpicky. I'm not going through frame by frame. But to me, if you told me, oh, yeah, same set, I would totally believe you.
Oh, I remember the House of Jigsaw forums when these movies were coming out and tiles were out of place.
Oh, boy. So I should mention this. This was kind of a weird position for me. When I first learned about Saw 5, I didn't see this in theaters. I didn't see the Saw movies as they were coming out in theaters. So I read this entire movie's plot by going through IMDb comments on the movie, like opening weekend, which was fascinating because it was just all these people with very deep lore knowledge and guesses as to what was happening in Saw and trying to figure out what the fuck the movie was based on what they said, because there wasn't like a cohesive wiki entry that first weekend. So that was essentially how I watched Saw 5 the first time. Now it's weird revisiting the movie because I have seen it before a couple of times. And this is one of the entries where absolutely like nothing of the movie sticks with me. I remember Straum's opening head trap and the ending of the film, and that was it. Like, when I rewatched this one for this commentary, I was blown away, remembering like, oh, right, there's like a whole B-plot of just a bunch of people Jigsaw threw into a tunnel together, and they have to do traps. I forgot that existed, all of them.
It's a very in-between movie.
I think it's
a bridge film.
I think that was my biggest takeaway both times. The first time I watched it when it was released and on the rewatch was it's mostly a movie of table setting for the next Saw movie. And although I came away liking it a lot more this time, it's all kind of unforgivable in that regard. You do walk away feeling like you just watched an episode of a Saw TV show rather than a full-fledged movie.
Yeah, this is when they were full in serial mode.
So, to comment on the trap that's here, Because this is actually one of my favorite traps in the series. Like Mike was saying.
Excellent opening shot, by the way. I wish they went with
Beautiful.
their original idea of that being the actual first thing you see, and then just flashing back to Straum, because chef's kiss on that.
Yeah, just that floating kind of decapitated head in the bright box in the darkness before the lights come on. Very cool. But I like how Hackle's handling this, because there's a lot of character work being done very quickly and informing the audience of how this trap works without Hoffman like reading it out. We follow the pipes, we go up to the water, we go back to Straum, we see him patting himself down and then seeing the table with all of his stuff. It's not the most intricate thing in the world, but it definitely communicates the urgency of the trap and how it works and how Straum is perceiving the trap too. So you get an idea of his character. Like, he's very observant, he's putting this all together in very quick time with the audience. And also how Straum gets out of the trap, the rig trapped he should never survive, which is probably why I'm a fan of the character. Like, what a metal way to get out of a saw trap. Just, I'm going to give myself a tracheotomy with a pen.
Oh, Straum is actually impressive.
Straum is great
mentally in this movie. But, Straum's a character this time.
He's not improvising all of his lines, which I think helps.
Yeah, I love, in a movie that doesn't have that much that it adds to the Saw formula, I do like that we open with someone using Saw movie game logic to survive an unsolvable trap, because for once the victim was smarter than the Jigsaw.
And I like how pissed Hoffman is when he sees that Straum is out.
It's great. This is an awesome cat and mouse film that should be the entire film instead of also having a B plot.
Also, before we get away,
what I took away from rewatching it is I got so much enjoyment out of the Straum and Hoffman stuff that I rejected the first time, and I think a lot of it was holdover from my feelings of 4. Like, I didn't know who the fuck is Hoffman? This dude who suddenly the actual apprentice, and Amanda's dead, and what's the fuck is actually going on? I don't know if I like any of this. On top of that, the B plot that was the actual Saw thing sucked. And that's when they started doing things like this scene where we'll get back to here in a movie or two, that kind of thing. And now that like the ease is off of it, like I don't have like the disappointment or feeling like, it's not continuing in the way I'd like it to. I can actually kind of just enjoy it. And now I'm actually really appreciating like the Hoffman character much more, and all of their scenes together, even though there's still a lot of like logistical problems with it, mostly just because they're being eaten up by a really terrible B plot.
Yeah. I still, it's frustrating because I hate Hoffman for the reasons you're supposed to hate Hoffman. Right? Yeah. He's a hypocrite, he's a cheat, he's a dirty cop on all other things who would kill even his own partners if he can get away with doing whatever he's into. So you're not supposed to like him, and he doesn't have the kind of philosophical standing that Jigsaw even had. So he's just a pure villain in my eyes, which is frustrating because the movies keep writing him as if he's like, God damn Slick Hoffman, he gets away with everything. And you're like, fucking someone shoot this man.
It's very unearned, which is why the supervillain moments, as cool as they are in particularly this movie, don't entirely land, because it's Walter White blowing up Gus Fring without 5 seasons of buildup.
Yeah,
exactly.
He just came in too late. Like, he just wasn't seated, and that's just the inherent problem. But
I guffawed out loud whenever he said, "I've been fighting Jigsaw since the beginning." Motherfucker, you showed up for 5 seconds in the 3rd film.
And it's now that I'm appreciating like why fans of Hoffman are fans of Hoffman. Like, okay, I'm getting it. And it's actually a cool idea that he is a Jigsaw copycat, Jigsaw caught, and he's not really an apprentice in the same way Amanda was. He's really not meant to carry on Jigsaw's legacy. He's still playing a game. Like, that's all him being a Jigsaw apprentice is a long game that he's now in.
Means to an ends for him, right? Because he can keep killing people as Jigsaw and then point the finger and say, no, somebody else did that. That was John Kramer. After Kramer's death, oh, that was Straum. Or he can just frame other people that were associated and just say, no, they are the killers. That said, from what we've seen in the opening scene, Hoffman does have a flair for the overly complicated and dramatic, so this seems like a perfect excuse for him.
Also, before we get away from this, two things for this scene. One, I love that Jigsaw had to get a second supervillain lawyer because his first was too sawable to be trusted with his final affairs. Like, no, your soul is too dirty for my last will and testament. And two, I do really love Tobin Bell's acting in that scene, and it's something we don't see anywhere else. Like, just a little detail that John can't be concise when he's talking to Jill. Like, you see him stammer and be unsure of what he's trying to say, for really the only time in the franchise. I think that was a very interesting choice to not play that as sinister at all, really.
Yeah. It's the only time you actually feel like you're seeing John instead of Jigsaw.
Also, I love the little supervillain touch of him apologizing for allowing her to do good.
Well, and all the other scenes where we really see John Kramer talking, there's always that threat that he's going to kind of turn on, like the cold, angry Jigsaw voice where he's kind of shouting a little bit, and you don't have those with Jill, really. Like, that's him with a kind of a softer side, and you don't have that threat hanging over you of him switching on the dime to that kind of controlling, angry persona.
Also, the set for that press conference is so cheap. Every time I watch it, I think that a TV president is about to walk out and talk about how, like, the feds are in charge of the Jigsaw situation.
This does occasionally look TV movie-esque with the budget just shrinking.
Which, honestly, as weird as it sounds, I think worked to its favor in this particular case, because one of the things that makes this a lot more forgivable for me this time around is how much it does have the vibe of, like, a direct-to-video Saw sequel that just ties up loose ends from the main franchise. You can almost watch this as just a one-shot movie about Jigsaw's police officer accomplice taking advantage of a situation to get away scot-free in the midst of the actual Saw stuff that's happening. And I wouldn't really say I think this is a strong movie at all. It's a fine Saw movie, which is more than I can say for 4, which still pisses me off.
This has kind of jumped up to be my, I guess, like, 4th favorite somehow.
I'll re-rank all the Saws when I'm finished rewatching them for this series.
They might shift around, but I really doubt 6 and 7 are going to move.
Yeah. Oh, after this, it's uncharted territory for me.
I Saw 7 is firmly at the bottom of my Saws.
I've seen scenes that indicate it will be at the bottom of the tier list.
And honestly, everything after 7, I just almost consider like part of different Saw series. So it's I can only rake like the canonical 7, and then there's just the spin-offs, even though one of them is technically Saw 10.
I had to explain that to my girlfriend over the phone this morning, by the way. We were talking about the episode I was recording tonight. Like, okay, I know that Spiral isn't a named Saw, but that is Saw 9. So they could still say it's Saw 10. And then the movie where Jigsaw comes back is Jigsaw, but that's not the movie where Jigsaw comes back where he comes back this time. That's Saw 10.
It's like Mortal Kombat Armageddon, followed by Mortal Kombat, followed by Mortal Kombat 10, followed by Mortal Kombat 11, followed by Mortal Kombat 1.
Oh, it's approaching Rambo situation levels.
Oh, hey, it's Erickson.
I was really endeared by the story they told of this actor being the only professional they've ever worked with to say, oh, well, I'm going to be in front of a desk for most of my role, so I'll go ahead and bring all of these photos of me and my family to set so the prop department doesn't have to work on that.
I know the ropes.
That's what I've never heard of an actor doing that unprompted, and that's very, very sweet.
Do that more often, actors. Help the art department out some.
I love that there was a fucking epic, bitter divide among the production of whether or not he should have the Commissioner Gordon mustache.
Wasn't his wife pissed off that he had the mustache? She was very excited when he had to shave later.
Wife and daughter, which is exactly like Vegeta in Dragon Ball GT.
When I say when you're getting a character this milquetoast, you go as white bread as possible. Give him a pipe.
It's a frustrating character too, right? Because he just feels very clueless, and his whole thing is just to kind of get in Straum's way. Like, here, I'm taking you off the case.
Oh, he's every cop on Dexter. It rolled up into one.
Yeah.
Also, Straum waltzing into his lair with his Starbucks. With his,
I did
enjoy
Back
to the Future model.
Yes. Should have been made out of Lego. I do appreciate in the previous scene, it just cuts the bullshit, and Hoffman essentially is immediately accused by Straum of being Jigsaw. Like, what the fuck,
Which is
man?
actually
None of
very
this makes
appreciative.
sense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, but it's also very appreciative. Like, no, that's weird. It's weird that he's just randomly lived without explanation.
Right,
With a
like
very
no
full of
injuries and all
nose.
that. Yeah. And it's very indicative of the Saw universe where no one bothers to question it. Like, well, makes sense to me. Let him go, boys. And the one guy who does try and question him, everyone kind of assumes is like too big of a dick to be right. And that makes him prime for being framed.
Look, Hoffman and Straum are the only two police officers left. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street, like the Freddy's Dead quality to it, where there's almost this post-apocalyptic feel where Jigsaw has just taken out the entire police department of the city.
The Saw City is very post-apocalyptic. It's something I've loved about it since the first film. It's very inadvertent, but it just becomes like a Gotham type thing.
Not having the money to show the rest of the world or people or crowds just makes it all feel very sparse and desolate.
Yeah.
Which works in the movie's favor. So it's a good thing. It'd be kind of weird if they, like we were talking about the original Saw 3 or 4 script, where like they're doing an action movie. How weird it would have been to actually see a proper city with life in it.
Also, we passed it, but I do really like the part where Hoffman walks over and adjusts one of the puppets to being in the correct position as what they are in the photo on the surveillance cameras, because I just like how the difference that kind of like shows a difference between Hoffman and Jigsaw. Hoffman is like moving it like he's God, where Jigsaw just kind of would have just had that. He's not really like playing Overlord as much as Hoffman is.
I enjoy that Hoffman apparently got a deal on these steel boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these. There's the one that Straum was stuck in. I feel like he just has 90 of these boxes somewhere in the warehouse. He's like, fuck, I've got more. I got to make more traps out of these. Also, enjoyed in the commentary that the producers had to sit down, they said, for basically a full day and discuss who should voice like the Billy puppet on all the Jigsaw messages in this film. Imagine that's your job. Like for a full day, you have to sit down and be like, let's debate the merits of if Hoffman should be voicing the puppet now that Jigsaw's dead, or if the needs of the fans outweigh that and it should still sound like Jigsaw.
Yeah, to skip ahead, like that's what's fascinating about the end with the Hoffman tape, because you can tell that is 100% them testing the waters to see if fans will flip out if Hoffman starts doing the voice.
Yeah, I actually don't think he did that bad of a job. I think with the effect, it worked pretty good. It's just when you have Tobin Bell, anything after that is just going to be tough to swallow.
Just have a voice modulator where it becomes Tobin Bell magically.
Yeah, it just has to be a Ghostface thing.
Also, shout out to the calmest group of Saw victims ever, all things considered. Like it's pretty much like the Scary Movie Saw scene at this point. Just, oh shit, I've been jigsawed.
Hey, that's probably C4, homemade.
Which
I
for like
guess we have to
very blasé
solve
about
his puzzle.
which until they really start talking is actually very appreciative because that's how this world would actually work at this point. And then you just get to know the characters.
I still have a lot of problems with this because one, it depends on all these guys kind of being stupid assholes. Like the end twist here, to spoil it, is, geez, if we'd all just used teamwork, we'd be alive. Which is like, yeah,
it's incredibly dumb. Everything about this is bad. The acting is bad, even by the good actors. The dude playing the strung out rich boy, he is technically doing a great performance. I'm not saying this to be funny necessarily. He's doing a great performance if he's playing someone who's handicapped.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you thought that too.
Yeah, it's inadvertent, but he seems to be doing that, like very like high needs autistic kinda.
Yeah, he's not playing troubled. He's playing him simple, which does not play at all.
Yeah, and because he's not, and instead he's a drug addict, it just comes off like he's an idiot. So that's a shame.
I enjoyed that every one of these Saw group traps has to include the one heavy bald guy who's the jerk, but probably right and would get out of these situations normally just through might. But
I appreciate that at the very least they have the Xavier knockoff almost immediately die this time around.
the second trap he gets blown up because they're like, no, we'll kill you, you asshole, which is very funny, but it's dramatically not the smartest move to take the key component of the drama out right away. I always feel that in slasher movies, like, you gotta leave the biggest douchebag for last, the last kill, because it needs to be the most over-the-top and gruesome, because that's what the fans are waiting for.
This has a fascinating slasher structure where the characters are killed in opposite order of interesting. So it's like the group gets more and more boring as the movie goes along.
Yeah, just
you don't
imagine,
and you don't find out why they're all together until the very end, which isn't helpful. That's bad. That just didn't help at all. That's actually a really good kill, though. I like that.
Yeah.
And okay. I'm going to ask you guys a question. I know the answer to this. Why are they in this trap?
Fuck if I remember.
Each of them played part in causing and or covering up a building that was burned down so that somebody could sell the land in a Dr. Phibes-esque morality tale.
What building?
What's very sad is it's not said in the movie, but because it's Saw, it's gonna be one of Jigsaw's fucking warehouses or something.
Okay, I can answer this question. So in the next film, we learn that Straum was investigating all these people. It's kind of just a throwaway line.
Okay.
It's so Straum was investigating them. The building that was burned down with the people inside that died. See, what you don't know, and what they don't know, is those people were already dead, because that's the nerve gas building. It also houses the bathroom in the basement and all that. And that's where Hoffman currently has his base now, because he's the one who set it up to be burned down. He was covering his tracks. So all the things these people think they're doing for like some kind of land grab and like all that other stuff, it's just Hoffman like buying the building and to then cover everything up so everyone looks like they died in a fire and burned up. So
very involved.
It's overly involved, and Jigsaw is the one who gives him the file of everyone. So that's confusing. I'm never quite sure what that's supposed to indicate. It's possible it may have been part of the game for Hoffman, which is you can put them in this, and this will cover your tracks even more, or it will just continue to push you into a corner as you try to cover your tracks. And Hoffman obviously still puts them in the fucking trap, even though Jigsaw's dead. So, other than that, I don't know, because Hoffman's not the one who picks them. So that makes it a little bit more confusing. It's a stupid plot.
It's a lot. That's a lot, man.
It also would have made a lot more sense for that to have been covered in the movie where Straum is investigating Hoffman and those people are still alive.
Yep. Yeah. Instead, you just cut to a completely different Saw. You cut to a direct-to-video rip-off Saw movie in the middle of a normal Saw movie.
Cindy, they killed a dinosaur.
Especially when I'm enjoying Straum putting pieces together, and if there was more time dedicated to Straum's investigation, we wouldn't have scenes. While I do enjoy all the flashbacks, we wouldn't have scenes where Straum, for some reason, has flashbacks to things Hoffman was there for and not him.
I kept thinking of the Seven sequel they tried to make where Morgan Freeman was a psychic. Like, oh god, there's totally a cut of this movie somewhere where Straum has been given psychic powers from his brush with death.
Oh, it's a Final Destination crossover? That would actually be cool.
Spider.
By the way, so disappointed they missed the chance to give Straum a scary robot voice. Especially since they apparently re-recorded his lines 3 times.
I gotta say, part of the reason I'm mad Straum died is I would have liked to have seen gruff, fucked up voice Straum for an entire film series.
I know! Every time they keep finding a cool protagonist, they dispose of him for shock value.
Putting this into a long, stretched out cat and mouse for 3 movies between Hoffman and Straum would have been a really fun way to take things. Hoffman's still trying to do his murders on the side, but he's running away and trying to frame this guy. And if you stretch that through several movies, I think you end up with a fascinating story. Here, it's fine, but it also runs very quick, and it involves everyone having to be very dumb.
Very dumb.
Well, God, picture this. Imagine the same ending of this movie, but instead of the escape to the House of Mummies trap, Hoffman disappears in his tube as the police encircle Straum at the site of a Jigsaw murder, and we get an entire movie of Straum in jail framed for Hoffman's crime, and the game escalates from there.
So basically Hannibal Season 2.
You're pretty much right.
Which worked as that show. Why wouldn't it work for a movie? Actually, that'd be fascinating, because now all of a sudden... Could you imagine Hoffman trying to break into prison to construct an elaborate Saw trap without being
Saw
detected?
Movie in prison would rule.
I think it's a very kind of hokey premise that he just very gimmicky
Beyond
that he would
Reanimator.
set up the traps in the prison. But I would honestly be very excited to see that if they just rolled with the stupid idea of Hoffman's in prison. He's not trying to get out. He's trying to get in. Fuck, now I want to see that movie, honestly. That's too bad.
I just want this to be the next Saw sequel. Jigsaw finds a way to get a man on the inside. Instead of an apprentice, he has a stool pigeon.
The Billy Puppet's doing hard time. He's pushing dumbbells out in the prison yard. So one thing to mention here is in the previous films, we had a lot of very stylistic transitions between scenes. That was something Bouseman was really proud of and really liked. And other directors weren't as into, and I think part of it was the producers pressured them maybe to not do as many because of the time constraints and budget constraints. But we still have some nice flourishes. The editing is still pretty crisp in a lot of these scenes, especially in the moments where Straum is visualizing what's going on in the backstory with Hoffman. I do like those flashes where, they just cut between the trap that we saw at the opening of the movie and back to Straum. Stylistically, I think those are pretty strong elements.
Once again, very Hannibal.
That. I guess, yeah. And the pendulum, it all connects.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing I was mentioning before is how weird is the order they kill people, because the main heavy, the bad dude here, was his name Charles, if I'm remembering right? Yeah, Charles.
Exposition,
He should
man.
be the last guy, right? And it would make the most sense dramatically, too. Imagine he gets the last trap, but he's encouraged everyone to kill each other off until it's basically him and one other person. And he realizes he can't get through the trap without the help of others. Like, this is specifically the guy that needs to learn that lesson. And then you can make it a dramatic irony when he gets to the end and he can't. That's actually making the twist enjoyable, even if I think it's still fairly silly.
Cody, you made a movie.
Yeah, right? Like, that should be basic. That should be, like, 101. And it's so fucking weird to me that this guy just gets owned immediately, like, in the second trap, where they have to teach him a lesson because he gets greedy. And, fuck, all these guys could have fit in one tube. It's frustrating.
That's the thing that pisses me off so much is at this point, we have talked till we were blue in the face over how a key component of Saw is the irony of your salvation being right in your face and you missing what's in front of you because of panicking or because of distractions or whatever. Even by those standards, even by judging the logic of these movies on a curve, a 10-year-old could see the peaceful solution to these.
It's
Right.
too
Holy
obvious.
shit.
And especially,
we're told everything, and they're writing the characters to purposely not understand the thing the audience can understand with the same instructions, and that's
Right.
just bad writing. Quite
Those
frankly.
chambers are so comedically big.
They
you
are.
could fit all of them in one of them.
And it's particularly frustrating because they go out of their way to start these series of traps with all the characters being very calm and collected and being like, hey, I bet if one of us pulls on that thing, it starts the timer. And I bet that does that. And this does this.
If they had them in a rush, you could at least like bullshit it.
Yeah, but they also get in this room and they talk backstory for a minute. And it's like, you just set us up to think these people are reasoning and they're going to see everything we're seeing. And then they immediately lose all of those smarts one trap later.
I mean, once again, we're not getting paid to make the screenplay better, but it feels like these traps should occupy, like they should utilize the same logic that the final trap does, where it's not a case of thinking about the solution that's peaceful. It's, okay, we can have a solution where all of us get hurt a little, or only one of us dies.
Yeah. Also, this is a very silly trap because they have a full minute to smash all these glass bottles. A thing that I'm surprised took them a half minute even with this edit. And all of them could get into these tunnels even if they were small enough for one person. This guy has some reason smashed every single one and is still going. And it's fucking mind-boggling. Like, why are these people fucking acting this way? I hate it. Why are they even closing the doors? Like, what's that going to protect them from the explosion? Why any of this? I hate it so much.
I thought those bars symbolize something to them.
Survival of the fittest, my ass, by the way.
It's all very silly, and I hate it. And
Also,
I feel
feel
bad
like
for the producers because they talked about designing these things and how, how difficult it is on a lot of these traps because they designed them too complex in the first place. Like, there's multiple timers. There's one to, like, carry out your action, and then another one that will blow up the room if you don't exit it fast enough, just to confuse people that some of the rooms have, like, 2 timers. And
I love the convenience of this saw trap will self-destruct.
yeah.
On a technical level, like, they're very thought out. On a writing level, the writing fails the trap.
I just want to go watch The Collector.
Don't we all? Like that sequel.
I would love to see a part 3 of that franchise. Big fan of The Collector and The Collection. Speaking of which, The Collector, I'm going to look this up quick because I forgot the actual date it came out. Yeah, that's 2009. So the year after this movie comes out, we have The Collector, which kind of started from the writers of this film pitching like a prequel idea for the Saw franchise. And I don't know if anyone realized it in 2008, but this was essentially the toppling of Saw as the king of October. This movie comes out and it's second in the box office. I don't think that had happened since the original Saw, which came in like third place behind Ray and I'm already forgetting the other horror movie, The Grudge, the American Grudge. Which makes sense because no one knew what Saw was at the time. But for the couple of years after that, Saw reigned supreme during Halloween weekend. Things finally change here where Saw gets dumped down by High School Musical 3, of all things. The box office is down from the previous couple of entries. 3 was really the peak of the money. Producers have to know things are starting to turn on them. And by next year, we have Paranormal Activity, which is going to take the crown. So this is kind of the ending of things. I imagine people started to realize, oh, Saw's running out of steam. We made it to 5. That's pretty good. Is it time to wrap things up? Luckily, I think the producers do care enough about the fans where they realize these things should wrap up with a satisfying story end instead of just going, the money's not there, we're done. Because they're telling a very dense story with a lot of continuity. It would be so frustrating if they just ended one of these and they had a whole bunch of open world strings. So I'm very thankful they didn't do that. And they committed to closing stuff down as much as they could while still giving themselves a little wiggle room in case things changed. But, oof. I imagine the mood in the room when this one came out and came in second place was probably a little grim. They're still making buco bucks, but just knowing, this is wrapping up soon. We can't ride this forever.
It's just crazy to think that the span of this movie kicking off and then ushering out the peak of the American extremity trend is like 5 years.
It felt forever at the time, right?
Yeah, from Saw to Paranormal Activity ushering in the found footage craze becoming the next big thing in like 5 or 6 years.
Well, yeah, because it comes out next year during Halloween and those two films compete. I remember there's a CNN news story where like, there's a new king! And they were there, for some reason, for once, really invested in genre filmmaking. Yeah, this was just something to talk about.
For so-called torture porn to have taken over an entire decade, I think it's mostly thought of that way because the couple of years it reigned just overlapped 2 decades.
To move away from box office talk, because everyone loves talking money.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I'm surprised I forgot about this scene, this is actually a pretty decent scene, and I hate that I'm slowly agreeing with Mike that things are better than I initially thought on Saw 5, but they are better than I initially thought in some parts. The back and forth, basically anytime you get Tobin Bell in the scene and he's not like wearing a hat backwards, it's worth the flashback. And this one actually adds quite a bit to, one, our vision of John, our vision of Kramer as characters. Hoffman as characters. It really works. It deepens the mythos. I like seeing the contrast between the two and how they kind of partnered. There's a lot of good stuff here. And the kind of coy toying that Jigsaw does to Hoffman. You know, he's got the gun. Is it loaded? He thinks it is, but maybe it's not. Him leaving ways for Hoffman to get back at him later in the scene. It's really well done.
Arguably might be one of the best scenes in the whole film series, honestly. And it's just like a 6-minute long dialogue scene.
It goes a long time. I'm surprised because I really feel like in these movies there's a bit of a formula where it's like, okay, we need to get to a trap or some sort of I hate to say like stylistic edit to keep people engaged, but I feel like they kind of have those on a timer. Like, we got to get something every couple of minutes, boys. We got to keep it rolling.
Remember, they apparently had to fight to prevent this from being chopped up throughout the film because the producers just wanted them to move along.
I can see it for, again, a horror movie. A lot of times the audience wants that. They want things to move quicker. But boy, you'd really dilute the entire impact, I think, if you just spoon-fed it to us. You won't gain any sort of emotional momentum if these things are quick flashes. Putting them all together in a 6-minute stretch allows them to build, feed on each other, and even have a couple of moments to relax and expand. They don't feel rushed. This is the correct way to do it, I think. They made the right choice by just laying it out in a long scene.
It also definitely helps you have a little bit more investment in what happens after this if you know who Hoffman is. One of my big problems with Saw 4. Oh no, Jigsaw is some guy.
Dun 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 dun. Could be any of us.
Also, even unrelated to this being Saw, ever since I was a teenager, I have always wanted someone to do something with the premise of someone in law enforcement doing a copycat crime while a serial killer is terrorizing a city so he can kill his wife or something, and then the serial killer taking offense to that and getting his revenge.
Jamie, you are once again describing Hannibal. This is Hannibal all the way down.
Evergreen idea.
It works. It works.
It's just one of those one of those premises where I'm surprised there's not 10 horror movies with them.
It's a strong concept. Or even you could just make a sequel out of that for any generic killer slasher movie. If you have some sort of deranged killer, fuck it, just have another one with a copycat killer. As long as you don't explicitly kill the first guy, you can make this work. I should say too, I like the trap here, how simple it is. Just the idea of, here's a gun underneath your throat, don't fuck around. As we get more into the Saw films, some of them become much more elaborate, like the opening trap that's a giant pit in the pendulum situation with hand grinders. I always appreciate the ones where we put this guy in a bunch of razor wire, and if he slips, he's going to rip himself up. The simpler it is, a lot of the time, the better. And I know you can't make them all that simple, but these shine so much more to me than a lot of the elaborate traps where they have sickles that'll pop down and crush your eyes, or otherwise your arms will all be ripped off and thrown across the room. They're not as gory, obviously, but the simplicity sells them.
Well, I think the trick with any torture-based scene in a movie like this is, are you focused on the machine? Excuse me. Are you focused on the machine or the weapon or just whatever the instrument of pain is? Or are you focused on what it's doing to the person? Are you focused on their reaction? Are you focused, if it's all about the gore, are you focused on the gore? Or are you looking at a giant Rube Goldberg device?
Yeah. And when we get to the gore traps, they're clearly designed for the audience's enjoyment and not to serve the story purpose as strongly as something like this shotgun.
Oh god, what do any of the traps in the B plot have to do with cherishing your life?
Fuck if I know. Yeah, we always say in these films, but Tobin Bell is just so good in this role. I love the way he frames himself in the mirror when he's looking at Hoffman so they can stare at each other as he's giving that monologue. How he carefully places the straight razor down on the table within Hoffman's grasp. Just to test him again. I like all the little movements he does where, he's knowing but not selling it too much or being too hammy. He really, it's obvious. He embodies the character. He does such a great job.
And at this point, he was such a pillar of the franchise. He was pretty much co-directing any scene he was in. He picked out the coffee cup that he's drinking. He determined exactly how far away he should be from Hoffman's chair. At this point, with things changing hands so much, he would be the dude you defect to for keeping that stuff consistent.
Yeah. And I like this scene so much, I even kind of forgive it for giving us a couple of moments of action Jigsaw, which is normally a thing I'd never want to see. Considering this whole point, Jigsaw is supposed to be slowly racking up lethal cancer levels and is on the older end. It's supposed to be a little more frail.
This is right on the limits of how much action Jigsaw you kind of want.
Yeah. He fights a guy who's way bigger than him, even though he has help. He poisons a guy in an elevator, knocks him out, and somehow drags him to his evil lair.
And
It's
it's cool
a
to get
little
like glimpses
much, but
of
the
like
scene works so well. I can forgive those kind of weird
but
logic stretches.
It's cool because it's the one time we get to see like prime Jigsaw before we've really only ever seen feeble Jigsaw.
Yeah,
It's like for the brief time he was like able to do a lot of that stuff himself. We never really got. We never get. That's not like that's like an alternate version of the film series itself that we did not get.
That'll be Saw 11.
I'll be honest. I do feel like he gets around a little too good in the Saw 2 flashback. It's like, okay, you should at least have a chair nearby you're kind of leaning on. Mystique walks by.
Welcome to the FBI. We can't afford lights.
Also, I feel like Hoffman spends half this goddamn movie in his car like it's a Jason Bourne movie.
He does.
Well, yeah, he's just kind of making calls.
He sits there for a while.
Yeah.
That's his lair. His Sawmobile.
He's a nice car.
Yeah, he's either looking into the monitors occasionally or he's in a car calling people, and it's like, they're not giving him the most dynamic stuff to do to prove his villain bona fides. Also, I hate how ham-handed the framing of Straum is in this one. Erickson's just like, well, I'll believe anything. I've worked with this man my whole life, but maybe he's a serial killer who spent the last year and a half setting up elaborate traps.
He did steal those files that said potential Jigsaw victims. Which I love that's labeled that and it's just on the shelf.
Yeah. And there's no checkout system. Like, anyone can just walk in there. There's apparently no cameras for him to check this. It's just the most blasé, like, well, if anyone takes a file from here, they're obviously a killer.
Looks mysteriously like the evidence locker at the local precinct.
Yeah. It's goofy. It's silly. This drags it down for me so much, really. This is the kind of stuff that makes me not like Saw 5 and forget a lot about it. Because conceptually, I do like what it's going for.
Yeah.
Well, like Saw 4, it's really good bones for a great follow-up to Saw. Again, it just falls victims to, we gotta make one of these every 6 months.
Yeah, you know what it feels like? It feels like a first draft.
Yeah. Also,
I like how they've decided, too, the character's now just repeating the mantra, someone had to die. What? These tubes are fucking 2 miles long, and like someone just died in the previous trap. There's no... What if 2 people died in each one? What the fuck? Why not kill all of you in the first trap? This is so fucking... Why is he killing you one by one? None of it makes sense. Makes me want to scream. I hate this trap section so much.
Let's be honest. This dude died because if he lived, the screenwriters would have to deal with him knowing too much about the plot. Yeah, too much exposition to live.
Let's just be really glad that they changed their mind on having Julie Benz and Megan Good be in their bras the whole film.
Yeah, is that the original plan?
That's in the script. Apparently, what made them change their mind was they met with Julie Benz and Megan Good and just felt really embarrassed and ashamed of themselves and never brought it up.
Oh, you're real actresses. Oh, okay.
You didn't come from a reality show that one of the producers is funding.
Jamie, did you misspeak and accidentally say what topped them from the first time?
Not, by the way, I just want to state for the record, not that would not have been a enjoyable alternate version of the film to watch. I surely would have enjoyed that B plot much more.
It would have been something sustainable.
It's not the lingerie bowl. I'm not watching Saw to see girls in like tops get torn up by chainsaws.
But imagine all the gore opportunities that opens up.
We have very different personal lives, Cody.
So this guy, if I remember right, he used to be a professional hockey player, right?
Yeah.
That was his background. Which shows, like, he's a giant of a man, which makes this seem like an unfair fight. Like, even drugged, I imagine this guy would fucking pound both these guys into fucking paste.
And I found out, thanks to IMDb, that his nickname is Butts. So enjoy that.
I was telling Mike earlier, that's my trivia name. Buttz. And I make the announcer always say, that's Butts with a Z. Anyone out there who wants to continue the name, you can be my apprentice. We can spread my legacy.
This is a joke for about 8 people out there. This dude looks like the guy from the Pepsi Man video game who tells you to drink Pepsi in the interstitial.
Jamie, I don't know if you're aware of this, but on the episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd, that's who he plays.
The delay, you fucking broke Jamie there. Her cognition was like, wait, nope, that can't be true. It's impossible.
We can just wrap the commentary after that.
Okay, going back to a point I made earlier about the transitions in this film, this is where they most shine, where we have multiple people using the same space, but they're in different levels of time, and them moving in and out of the frame without cutting, which looks beautiful as is. Very funny to imagine the behind the scenes where they literally have like a PA just holding on to Tobin Bell and is yanking him off screen to make sure he's gone in time.
So I'm horrified by the fact that Lionsgate had to send somebody to the crawl space they originally filmed this scene in so they could get the dimensions right for recreating it. I feel like there was a 50-50 shot of that guy just not coming back.
I would have just made up numbers. I'm like, I don't know, it's like 20 by 12. Good enough.
It's 5.
Girth units.
Did he say like girth units and like grab his dick and flail it around a little bit, or
just
I'm imagining girth units.
One thing I do want to say in this movie's defense, and we do complain a lot about the watering down of Jigsaw's more villainous attributes as the series goes on. It would have been very, very easy for them to have retconned the peephole as solely something Hoffman was doing. And that could have been like an interesting character beat for like, oh no, Hoffman was the one taking it too far all along. But I respect the fact they're like, no, Jigsaw's a sick motherfucker. He's the one who taught Hoffman to watch.
And specifically having Hoffman say like, I don't really like that we're doing this, and Jigsaw making him watch.
Kudos to whoever's in charge of continuity for all of these movies, because we have to go through like 6 different hairstyles for different actors, because every movie they change until they realize like, oh shit, we gotta lock this down. Tobin has to have like consistent hair. We can't make him bald in this scene and have hair in the next.
When Nika finally makes a Jigsaw figure, I hope it's first movie Soul Patch Jigsaw.
He's got to have the facial hair.
Nika normally gives you a couple of extra heads. I feel like they should give you a Jigsaw mold. They should give you like old man cancer Jigsaw. They should give you the works.
With cereal bowl.
Cereal bowl, yes.
I absolutely want Jigsaw with the Billy face paint from the Jigsaw poster. And just the head of Chris Rock.
Oh, they've got to make a fucking Hoffman, but one of his heads is the skin of Jigsaw mask from the poster. Do that.
You know,
they made glass case.
They made a exclusive Scream figure for like New York City style, so why not? Nika would do that kind of thing. So, what's the feeling of the room on these kind of scenes where they're really, really explicit callbacks to previous Saw films? Because one, you could just say it's fan service, like, yeah, you guys love Saw 2, right? Check it out, they're doing Saw 2. Or do we buy into it? Is this a good use of time where it's fun to see them go back and revisit different points of the mythology?
I think I do think in the context that's being presented, it's interesting. Granted, I also really like fan service in the Saw films, so maybe I'm not the best person to be answering this. But I do think when you kind of like weave it all together and start thinking of it in terms of like chronological order, then it is very interesting to start putting the pieces together, like where were these characters when all this other stuff was happening, and you can start having fun with the timeline. And because it's not like Jigsaw has done this to like hundreds upon hundreds of people, So you do
Not yet.
have only like a set number, and being able to like play around with those different events and what went into each one and what went between each one.
We should have been keeping a victim count through these movies, because I am curious how many they've gone through at this point.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
the
think,
Saw wiki would tell me, but it's more fun if you do it yourself.
I think it's definitely a double-edged sword where, on the one hand, it is a little cheap, especially this scene in particular, which is super aping the Saw 1 flashback with Amanda that we saw in the third movie. But at the same time, like you said, what is a Saw movie without a little bit of continuity fan service? Plus, if you're doing a movie that's telling the backstory of Hoffman, why are you doing that if not to have scenes of him and Jigsaw setting up traps and talking about Saw continuity?
Yeah.
Like, whenever you're revealing somebody who's been a part of the scheme all along later on in the game, you're kind of backed into a corner where you have to then write the scenes retconning them into things.
It is.
Well,
I would kind of say it is nice because it's not just retreading previous scenes or showing us a thing we've seen before. It
kind of adding.
deepens the lore a
Yeah.
little bit, right? Because now you're exposing, hey, there's a character you didn't know was in the scene before. He was there. So next time you go rewatch Saw 2, you can think of that scene a little differently. And I think it gets by on those merits. It would be very easy to get to Saw 5 and just start doing retconning 2, where it's like, hey, does that make sense that guy's there? And you'd almost forgive it because, goddamn, when you get to 5 movies in 5 years,
Yeah.
you can kind of excuse when maybe some of those earlier scenes that were made without thinking about this character have to be changed slightly to accommodate the new mythology. It's not as bad as something like Jason Goes to Hell, where they're rewriting it to be like, no, here's the backstory on Jason. We swear, it was a whole thing.
It was a slug the whole time.
I think it also helps get across that we're differentiating Kaufman from Amanda, and what exactly an apprentice is to Jigsaw as well. You know, we in the Amanda flashback, she's falling apart, she's having a hard time, but Jigsaw is very much trying to mold her, and also kind of just uses her as an additional tool. With Hoffman, it's a little bit different. He is continuing to play a game, even though he's teaching Hoffman. He's like trying to. The analogy is, I think, why they have Jigsaw talk about tempered steel so much about Blade. He is trying to temper Hoffman and mold him into a version of himself, while also seeing exactly what Hoffman will do. And I think differentiating that and showing like it's not the same as Amanda, and because it also gets across that Jigsaw is continuing to attempt apprentices, but his entire system is flawed. Like, everything Jigsaw does is flawed, but he doesn't understand that it's flawed.
Maybe if he stopped picking assholes, it would be different.
That is a factor of the Saw universe that I wish they could have leaned more heavily on in a more concisely thought out, like, second trilogy. The playing with the horror of a system that is proven by the people behind it to be faulty and harmful being perpetuated, like, after those people are gone. The idea of something malevolent just going on forever and ever after. Again, even the people who made it have clearly seen, oh no, this actually doesn't work. Like, no, this philosophy is completely fucked, and there's nothing we can do to stop it now. Like, we see that in the previous scene where, the previous flashback, where you see Jigsaw telling Hoffman, oh, the victims are instantly rehabilitated the second they emerge from the trap. So, like, no, even Jigsaw, at least at that very early stage, was completely off his fucking rocker, like, beyond any conceivable justification of what he's doing.
I hate to say it, but John Kramer supports conversion therapy.
See, I feel like Jigsaw would absolutely put turfs into games.
That's the confusing part. I feel like he would believe that you could torture the gay out of someone, but he'd be like, you don't need to do it.
But what is a trans person if not somebody cherishing their life and taking it into their own hands with blood and surgery? You'd respect how metal that is.
What way are we putting him? Is he a Babadook or is he what is he? What kind of friend to the community is he? What kind of friend to the community is he? Is he? What are we dealing with here?
Oh God! Speaking of being friends to the community, okay, I'm just gonna say this and move on. In a series not super good to its persons of color, did nobody at any point think maybe we don't mutilate the corpse of the black lady? God, that is a bad look.
It is unfortunate.
Well, I was thinking of a slightly different direction, because watching that scene where she gets knocked into the tub as a surprise, I realized one of the reasons I don't care for this movie is there's almost no tension or scares in it.
None at all.
Which is frustrating, because some of the other Saw movies are loaded with tension, or even some of the traps you're seeing, they're like, oh God, I don't want to see that man slice his eyeball up. I don't want to see the bear trap go off. This one doesn't really give me that sense at any point. Even the first trap, which I love, second trap that I love, the glass box filling with water, doesn't really scare me. It's over so fast, you don't really have a point where you're panicking that Straum won't make it out.
Yeah, I don't really want to come down on the direction, but yeah, all those scenes are shot like the thing that's happening. It not cool, but look at this trap, look at everything that's happening. There's no sense of danger.
The movie's shot like an action film.
Yeah. Mind. When and even more so than 2, which people call an action film, but to me that's filled with tension and freaky scenes. Even when the Straum is being crushed, in that moment you should be feeling like the walls are closing in on you as an audience member. When his arms start to break, you really feel something. It's not shot that way. It's shot more like it's an exciting thing that's taking place. So it's cool effect seeing him, his bones snap apart and him get crushed, and it's a cool ending shot where the walls close in on Hoffman and it cuts to credits. But that's it. It's just kind of cool.
I mean, it's something you see sometimes when DPs take on directing duties, you especially in that very first attempt. You can sometimes just see on the screen, okay, this is somebody who knows how to make something look good, but they don't quite understand the language of storytelling yet.
I think it's just something I never really understood. Watching 5, I just went, okay, I don't remember this. It doesn't make an impact on me. And I think that's the problem. It's in the wrong mode for what I want from a Saw film. It's a detective cat and mouse without a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And it's more or less kind of an action thriller with gore. And it's given up on the idea that there should be tension and scares. And a lot of that gets replaced with these kind of cool moments of fan service where we're fucking with the timeline and showing little pieces you weren't aware of. It's very frustrating me. I think that's why I was asking the timeline question before, because there's other moments where I feel like this works as is, but it also cheapens the efforts to do anything else in the movie because you're wasting a lot of time on these flashbacks.
Yeah.
Also, I love Jigsaw saying, we're going to have to play a game. And then Hoffman walks out and Amanda walks in. It's like, I'd like to play a game.
Jigsaw's having a good day that day. You get to say it so many times.
I like in that scene that Hoffman gets to leave through a secret door that they have strategically put pieces of paper around the corners to make it look like the pieces of paper are part of the secret door. Like it just has a jagged edge. Straum smash! It's also, isn't it weird that they, for reasons of plot, have to make Straum go this entire thing alone? So he has very few lines of dialogue, and to get him to communicate to the audience, they have to give him moments of him just being like, "Arr!" and throwing tables.
Took your gloves off, didn't you, son of a bitch?
Yeah, they have to resort to him doing that kind of shit just to give the character something to throw at the audience. And the drama would work so much better. The drama would work so much better if like Perez was just in the scene. If they just hadn't written Perez off, and I think they write her back in the next one, don't they?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It is a clever thing where it's essentially Straum's trump card. It does lead to actually a legitimately very good tense scene of when Hoffman actually gets found out. It's actually a really well directed scene, but
that's for next time.
Yeah,
but for this one, it's just frustrating because the lone wolf detective is typically saddled with a sidekick they don't like and has to rail against being made a partner for that exact dramatic reason. You need another person for them to express themselves to make their journey a little more interesting to the audience and add some amount of flair.
Would this world, be better? Tap is still alive.
Yeah, would this be better? Well, they specifically call out Tap too in that flashback, so it feels like that would have worked. It would have been a little weird, but also kind of exciting.
Instead, we see his photo at that memorial as if he's not still tied to that gurney in a mental institution.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to discount Saw the video game. It's just frustrating because there's little missteps. Like you said, Mike, it's very much first draft material where if this movie had a few more months, I feel like they would have found a way to get Straum in a room with other actual people for more than one scene.
Yeah.
And it would have strengthened so much more.
Well, what are the Saw sequels if not lone wolves walking angrily between rooms?
If only Rig was still alive.
But even in the other ones where like a guy is in a series of traps, typically he'll like start talking to one of the other victims at some point or get them free for a trap or two, so he's got a companion. Like even in Saw 3 we get that where he's going through and he rescues the judge, and like at least for one trap he's got a guy to bounce things off of and kind of act as his conscience and talk to him.
Well, Straum is stuck on Flashback Lane.
Just
maybe that's it. Maybe from a technical
point
point of view, they need him to see all that stuff first, so they can't let him have someone to talk to. But again, it becomes action movie at that point instead of some level of drama that could have tension.
Well, Straum has to sense the history of objects like he's Abe Sapien.
I'm just thinking of Walk Hard now. Like he has to sit down and think about every crime he's ever heard about before he moves on to the next scene.
Jigsaw has to think about his entire origin before he records a video.
See, that's the flashback I want. Hello, Zep. Sorry. Hello, Zep. Howdy, Zep. How you doing, Zep? Like the 8 different outtakes of Jigsaw trying to find the right tone of like menacing, but not too scary.
I would like to play a game. Was workshopped. Originally, he was going to go with "Welcome to my game show."
That was tricks. No. We'll go with that.
I was going to sing a cover of Jigsaw Falling Into Place by Radiohead, but then I would have to pay royalties.
Can I just say we're watching a command center track a cell phone in a fucking Saw movie?
Uh-oh. Somebody in a Saw movie said, I don't think this is a good idea. You got 37 seconds. You guys better hurry up. Oh no, they're figuring out the purpose of their trap. Very lackadaisically.
They're
Wait,
just
Jigsaw
so
didn't want us to kill each other?
They're just so cartoonishly asshole. This is such a problem. And they're caricatures because not enough time can be devoted to them because it's not really an important plot. It's there just so there's a game.
And it's very silly them saying these things very calmly when you're like, oh, right, there's 5 seconds before the pipe bombs go off. And the other thing is, in terms of form, each time a Saw movie has done the big twist we were supposed to understand, they have been overloaded with stylistic flashbacks leading them up to that exact fucking moment. There'll be a flashback to 5 seconds before the flashback started. This one does not. It just has the character standing there going, oh, hey, we fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, you think that the twist is coming before you get like wait, what? No, that was the Saw twist?
Well, and that would also fuck you up if you were in theaters, because we're an hour 15 in. This movie has roughly 20 minutes left, a little shorter with credits, but not much. It's way too early to do the twist. And I think audiences picked up on that, so they're like, this doesn't even matter. If this was supposed to be a twist, I'm not counting it. They must be saving an actual twist for later on, which they were, and it's still a very soft twist.
I think a lot of audiences checked out of this entire plot about midway through. Because it wasn't even being teased on how it was connected. It really did come across exactly what it was, which is, and then we cut to some other people going through a Jigsaw game. And then we cut back to the plot that you're actually interested in. Then we cut back to them going through a Jigsaw game.
Yeah.
It says a lot that the only connective tissue is Hoffman walking into a room, looking at the screen and going, oh, I have a saw going.
Oh, fuck, I forgot about them. Put some air holes in.
I still have Jeff in the box.
Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. And again, this is a thing that frustrates me in 1,000 movies. It's not just this film. When the plot can only work when a character decides he can't talk to literally anyone else in the world. One of those things where, no, he has to be a lone wolf who does all this. Like, he's got a cell phone. At the very least, he could call his boss and be like, hey, man, I think there's a problem inside the station, and it's this guy. I'm going to go investigate. In a real-world scenario, and again, I know it's a movie. You can't always do real-world because it's boring, and it doesn't make a lot of dramatic, fun sense. But it just gets so frustrating when so many issues only work in film because people don't communicate like people.
It's again not to sound like we are experts in screenwriting or anything, but yeah, I think it's a very basic red flag if your film would collapse if characters talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about with the journalist character earlier, a character who gets killed off immediately because if he hung around, he would talk about the plot too much, and they couldn't have that.
Well, I was going to say earlier, one thing I do enjoy about the Saw films is they are set in the modern world, and they don't have to make a big to-do about getting rid of modern technology to work. You know, there's so many horror films where they have to give you some lame excuse like, oh, the signal doesn't work out here. Everyone throw your cell phones away. Saw hasn't really had to do that. Normally the people are, stripped of their belongings, so phones don't really matter. Or even though they're in an urban area, they're so isolated, no one's going to save them. Most times technology doesn't play into your thinking and bother you with stupid, worrisome logic questions. Here it doesn't, because Straum is free to call up anyone he wants, but they have to write the character so dumb, he literally isn't telling anyone about the groundbreaking theories that he has.
I mean, at that point, just at least write a letter and then send it to your lawyer to be distributed after your demise.
Right, do some shit. Learn a thing from Jigsaw. Like, put a clue in a box, write a letter to your attorney, put something in a box somewhere that your best friend checks every day.
Call Perez.
Call Perez. I'm trying to think of a car jingle for that. 1-800 call Perez.
What do you think Dr. Gordon's doing right now?
Limping?
Limping around. Limping, pimping. I want to mention, I did finish my Malort cocktail 2/3 into this movie, and I moved on to a hard cider. And once again, it's amazing because each one of these Saw commentaries, I get to learn the lesson of Saw. Where a drink I would normally go is, oh, that's a little too sweet, or that's kind of basic, becomes fucking nectar from the gods, just pure ambrosia. Yes, I have. I've never had a beer as good as this beer after drinking that swill.
Cherish your swill, Cody.
Oh, baby, the cider boys is going down good. I'm terrified that my fucking Whippet container is just going to taste like Malort forever now.
It probably will.
It's like putting whiskey into a Camel pack. Like, you can't get that out.
Speaking of drinking, when we were watching the head trap scene at the beginning, all I could think was somebody has got to intercut Jigsaw talking about that trap with Landfill in Beer Fest drinking his way out of the big stein of beer.
He almost did it! He almost did it! Oh man, feel awful. I'm blanking on the other movie where there's a similar scenario, and I shouldn't have even said anything without being able to spit it out.
Club Dread. Oh, you're not talking about Broken Lizard.
No, it was a Rick Moranis movie.
Strange Brew.
Strange Brew, yes.
I do love the little bobber.
They just open up the tank and he's just swelled to enormous size, having drank all the water.
You know, I really like Straum's hair.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I do like the hands being cut. That's fun.
It's one of those things where cutting yourself in between the fingers so they just kind of flop around, your hand doesn't work quite right. Yeah. That's a great, vicious detail. Like, gore-wise, that's a good one.
Oh, especially when he holds up his hand in a little while, and it's got like the thing hand.
Yeah.
He got Art the Clown.
I think they do that in Pan's Labyrinth at one point, don't they? Like someone was tortured and his hand just kind of falls apart.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's a good gag. It works. It's effective. It gives me the shivers. I also like that this establishes the old standby of, I want to play a game. Can you use enough bodily fluids to fill this container in 30 seconds? Blood's the easiest one, but if you can get semen in there, go ahead.
Everyone start pissing uncontrollably.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Create that scene from Sex Drive.
With Julie Benz there, it's possible he could have recharged quick enough to fill all those jars.
God.
You would have died, though. You would have died. That would have sucked all the life juices out of your body.
Vitality out of him, just a husk.
Yeah, in order to produce the amount of sperm needed within 30 seconds.
Well, she's a vampire.
If you've learned anything on your journeys, what the fuck would Straum have learned here as a moral lesson? Is one of trust. Are you going to trust me, a serial killer?
It's
no. Why would I ever trust a fucking serial killer? You're a piece of shit.
It's one of those things that is missing after Winnell stops writing these. Is there's a lot of talk about Saw things as if they're taking place, but it's not really in the story. So people are talking about moral lessons, but what is the moral lesson? There isn't any.
No.
But people are just saying it. It's all surface level.
Right. Well, even there, like, there'll be some pain if you get in this box. Like, there's a little bit of glass, but it doesn't look particularly painful. It doesn't even look like it should be like a cool... They've been talking about this fucking glass box since 3, and I never had any level...
not work out.
I never had any amount of interest in it. Yeah, it doesn't look painful. It doesn't look like a cool design. It's just a box with some chunky fake glass.
They did all apparently hate it, so the way that it looks. Because it's supposed to be like theater of the mind, like you just don't want to get into a box filled with glass, especially when Jigsaw is telling you to do it.
Right. But you need a visual sign-off that it's that way. You have to help the audience, like...
Yeah, and it's not communicated.
You pan the camera in slowly with ominous music or close-ups of fucking...
It looks
fucking
so much worse.
Metal or something.
It looks so much worse in 4 when it was seen for a brief second.
Also, I'm sorry.
A diorama!
The tubes connected to the box kill me because, oh my god, Straum, you walk into a saw trap with a glass cube with pipes in it. He is at least pumping poisonous gas in there.
Right. And after, like, Straum was smart enough to get through one of those traps already. It's very frustrating. Depending on the scene, Straum is either written as the smartest man in the room or the dumbest man in the room.
I mean, what is the Jigsaw tape that opens this movie? Detective Straum, do not walk forward. Straum walks forward.
Well, I do think I think what's attempting to happen here with this, and I for the most part, like, I don't like that Straum dies, but it's because, but purely because can there be a protagonist at this point? But I do like the supervillain lols fuck you of all of this. It is nice, and I think what they're going for, and I think it's a little bit lost through like directorial communication or something, that Straum was able to survive a last trap by outthinking it. So the idea is have Straum outthink it, but that's what fucks him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those on paper things, sure, but it doesn't get across.
It's not communicated through the actual scene. And I don't want to rag on David Hackle's direction, but I do think that is something that's just not there in the scene setting.
There's a lot of problems with how it's staged too, because we have Straum kind of hiding in the shadows till Hoffman walks in, and then he puts his gun in the back of Hoffman, who spins around, and then they have a brief fight. And it's like, why didn't Straum just shoot him?
Just kill him.
Or yeah, if like why do the scene that way? The staging's not good, and it's
so what?
It's frustrating because
exactly did you think was going to happen, Straum?
Yeah, it's frustrating, and also my sympathies towards Straum because we got him escaping that first trap. So when I heard about this ending, one, it's very disturbing. The idea of being squished to death is very disturbing to me. I don't like that idea. It's it's freaky. It's a good Saw idea. But you're hoping in the back of your head, like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if they have a little bit of cliffhanger where they leave wiggle room for Straum to somehow escape?
Yeah.
Like, it would make this movie very pointless if Straum got out and they continued things on. But again, it'd be very fun if Straum continues finding weird ways to escape traps. Like, what if he just got a little more fucked up each time, but he's just kept ticking? I think that would be a pretty interesting way to go about it.
It's definitely a frustrating thing where you're kind of fucked if Straum lives, and you're kind of fucked if Straum dies. So you kind of have to like judge the like lesser of two evils,
which
is like
he's in prison. That's the second season of Hannibal.
That's true. But yeah, more or less, you have to go with like Hoffman winning gives you more story opportunity than Straum surviving. At least for like what they wanted to do, I'd say.
Have you learned enough to trust me? What have you given him to trust you in any capacity? I think there's a simple out, and this is me having thought about this for 2 seconds here. Straum cheats the trap enough to survive, but he's injured. Hoffman gets out of his glass box and has another trap designed for Straum. Straum becomes the B plot of this movie, essentially. The next movie is Straum walking through a series of traps that he has to participate in or decide. That would actually get you to somewhere where you have the emotional connection of this guy knows that Hoffman is a killer. Can Hoffman convince Straum that his methods make sense?
Here's the problem. Is we're going back to the inherent issue with the production of these later sequels is the options of Straum living is fucked because of the storyline the producers now want to do with all these other threads like Jill Tuck and stuff. You cannot do both. And that fucks everything.
And they never really even do that much with Jill, which is the frustrating part to me.
No. There is a background arc with Jill that is interesting, but you have to like go back and rewatch like all the scenes in chronological order to piece it together.
I would have at least torn out the air holes, like the tubes, just to be like, well, fuck you. At the very least, I hope you suffocate.
It is fucking crazy that like the original script.
Actually, the tubes don't even matter. Look, they don't. I don't think they're connected to anything.
Which I actually think is really great. Like it is just like I'm gonna recreate the fucking thing you got out of and let you think that it's the same thing. and it's not. Those
Like a
tubes actually aren't
2.0.
attached to anything. I do think that that's a nice touch. The blood on the
smashing
dripping on the
arm,
blood.
yeah.
It's so good.
As
But
he
yeah,
escapes in his red skull trap.
but it's like the original ending of the script for 4 has Straum like set up to go on like this epic Jigsaw game that's been set up. And it's funny that they did kind of just like abandon that completely. Like that could have still led to this, but they've like, no, we're actually kind of done with Straum now, and we're focusing solely on 6 is 6.
Yeah. People have started to come back around on 6. I don't know. I got to rewatch it to see if I agree in any capacity.
I mean, who knows? I came back around slightly on this one, so.
One thing I would say here, we had that strong visual of the walls closing into darkness to end the movie. Great visual. And originally they wanted to start the movie with just Straum's illuminated head, kind of decapitated from the darkness. And boy, that's such a strong, cool visual tie. Like, I'm really bummed out they did not open the movie like that.
Yeah. And kept the thing going about the movie's opening with the light and darkness.
Yep. Even more than that, though, I would have pushed it as far as possible if I was in charge of filming. Straum would have managed to break the bars enough where he pops his head up and then his whole body gets crushed by the cage below him. And so you end up with his head illuminated, decapitated in the light at the start of the film. That would have been
nice.
And just his actual literal decapitated head in the darkness at the end of the movie. That's how I would have done
great. Oh, can we go back in time and do that as a special edition? Also, I swear to God, I thought you were heading towards, and then in the next movie, Straum's just a head.
Just his head. He's Mr. Freeze in the later episodes of the animated series. No, I just think like, you set up a really cool visual cue with that opening trap. What if you actually made that promise and is foreshadowing to him almost getting away with it at the end, but he can't quite beat the Reaper twice, and it literally crushes his whole body, but his head's left behind. Because you still have the ookiness of the crushed body and the claustrophobia of it, but then the visual of just the head. I think that would be cool. It's too late now, but wouldn't that be nice?
Saw 5. Wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be lovely if they changed things? So, yeah, I'm still not really tipped in favor of Saw 5. When half the movie is this throwaway trap plot that doesn't work, even though everyone is theoretically going to a Saw film for the sawing, something's wrong. And I like on paper what the rest of the film is doing, but I feel like there's only a handful of scenes that actually get the message across in a good way. And it's a bummer, because if things were slightly different, this could actually be a really solid 5th entry. It's hard to get to 5 movies into a franchise and have it be good. So it's not a surprise to me, but it is a letdown.
Of the 5 Saw films I've seen, this is my 4th favorite, which is something. It's the first mid-Saw movie, which is a step up from 4.
I guess we should think of it this way. By Hellraiser 5, they'd already been to space, and then they figured, fuck it, let's just put these on DVD. So it's doing better than a lot of other franchises.
It's true. We're not getting Saw Hellworld or anything. Jigsaw goes online, which would actually fit.
I keep saying for years, I want to see an AI of Jigsaw living inside of the puppet.
Let's see. Leprechaun 5, by that point, they were in the hood. So
they'd return to quality.
How do people feel about In the Hood? Are they
I
fans?
will die on the hill that Leprechaun in the Hood is the best Leprechaun movie.
Agreed. He went back,
Well, to the Hood, yeah, later on. I was also very surprised, because I always thought the official title of that movie was Leprechaun in the Hood. But the internet's telling me it's properly spelled Leprechaun in the Hood.
Bullshit.
Yeah, the fans made it better.
I refuse to be Mandela affected.
And well, yay, that was Saw 5. We did it.
Woo! I'm just trying to think of other 5th entries. Just compare this to for quality's sake. Boy, yeah, we're for horror films, a lot of franchises get to 5. Is the 5th one any good? I guess Friday the 13th Part 5, what is that, The New Beginning? People are mostly mad about that because it's not Jason, so I get it. But I think that movie has a lot of good atmosphere.
It has a lot of good atmosphere and some good storytelling stuff that's interesting. Elm Street 5's not bad,
Yeah, I was about to say, which they all blend together for me. I have a hard time differentiating. Dream Child? Okay.
It's fun. I mean, I enjoy the Elm Street sequels. I think
the Elm Streets. We never got to Candyman 5. We already talked about Hellraiser. Scream 5. I enjoyed Scream 5.
Scream 5, excellent.
Yeah, kind of, I mean, not really a reboot, but it's playing around with those ideas slightly. Yeah, it's good.
See,
I like it.
But the thing is, all these are very, like, you need to find the fifth one that's in, like, a straight line.
The fifth Puppet Master.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I think we're up to retro
stuff
Puppet
like,
Master at that point.
stuff like Scream 5 or The Last Jedi or
They had
although
decades to make those. They had a lot of time to like make legacy
they're
kind of
skip
sequels.
ahead. They represent different things. To me, it's like that's why I can only count like all the Saw movies have to be broken up into brackets. Like there's like the first 3, but then there's like the whole original 7, and then there's Jigsaw, Spiral, and Saw X are like all separate entities. Like I cannot rank them all together at once.
I could actually see that. That makes a certain amount of sense.
I'm the same way about Child's Play, where every era of Chucky is completely its own thing.
Tremors, where it's like the first couple, and then like the Sci-Fi Channel years, and then the direct-to-video years.
Yeah.
Well, what did we learn today? Nothing. It's very much a burn after reading situation.
Very little.
Fuck if I know.
We're terrible.
Anyways, folks, hopefully you enjoyed this. There will be, we're this far in, I've drank enough Malort where I can't stop, more Saws. So stick around with us for Saw 6. Let's see if we join the bandwagon of people reappraising 6 as good. And then, of course, there's 7, which is...
I'm perversely looking forward to 7.
Jamie, I almost want you to not watch the movie for note-taking at all. Like, I want you to watch it fresh with us, maybe. And I just want to, like, the commentary will be us gauging your reaction.
Less work. Awesome.
Oh, no! But then you won't be able to talk about Saw the Ride.
Oh, I do all of my research for just the shit surrounding Saw. I watch every episode of the Scream Queen reality show.
That sounds kind of fun, honestly.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Anyways, folks, if you want more of this and more to come, you can find us at Box Office Pulp. We are still on Twitter, as long as that thing's around, I guess. It's getting worse by the day, but at Box Office Pulp, you can find us. You can message us. You can contact us at boxofficepulp.gmail.gmail. That at Gmail.
.gmail. At gmail.com is our
900 years old. I don't know how technology works. You can find us Gmail, please. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Look us up, Box Office Pulp. If I say it one more time, I legally owe myself a free t-shirt. Box Office Pulp. Also, after you're done looking up boxofficepulp.com, I've just started a new reward card, so the more I say it, the closer I get to another free t-shirt. We're excited to feature a really funny podcast, perfect for anyone who hates censorship. It's called Banned Camp. Banned Camp is a comedy podcast where they read banned books and try to figure out why they were banned in the first place. Pretty pertinent to these days. I think we can all agree.
I'm waiting for them to eventually get to Stephen King's Dreamcatcher.
I assumed you're just going to go to It's Sewer Scene, but whatever you go.
Oh.
This season, they're reading Mark Twain's classic, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, one chapter at a time. If you think banning books will lead to a not-so-great future, then Bandcamp is for you. Whether you're like Jennifer, curious to read the book for the first time, or like Dan, and a little too lazy to read it for yourself, you're going to love Bandcamp. So look for Bandcamp. That's band with 2 N's. I hope I've been pronouncing that loudly enough, enunciating. Hopefully the Malort has not slurred my speech so much to be indecipherable. And you can find them on your favorite podcast player and I say all that and then I can't say the word subscribed. Oof. Subscribe today. Let's get banned together. I almost said all of those words without sounding dumb. Got real close, folks. But check them out. They're great. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they've done To Kill a Mockingbird, The Outsiders, Fahrenheit 451. It's a really cool podcast.
Plus, you can tell your friends you're reading, even technically you're listening to people read to you. That counts. You get to put that on your Goodreads. Do it. It's good. It's smart. It makes you look nice. Your dates are going to love you.
Cody, you just described an audiobook.
Yeah. I'm assuming our audience has never read a book at all. They only read newspapers for the funnies, and that's it. So I'm trying to enlighten them.
I just get newspapers to put the silly putty on there, and I just get
fuck.
the words.
Wasn't that cool? Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, I like doing that. That was fun.
I got out of silly putty because one time I got on my jeans and it like got stuck to the jeans. It was like a Thanksgiving party, and I started crying in the basement because I thought I ruined my nice pants, and my mom kind of yelled at me.
It just always sucked because it would eventually get hard. I still have silly putty that I kept in a Ziploc bag. It is like nearly 20 years old, still fresh, can still ply it. It is perfect.
I'm sure it's sentient by now. It's gone to college.
Mike,
Probably.
I think silly putty costs like $1.50 at Walmart. You could just buy some new silly putty.
I am not made of dollar cash.
Dollar Cash, my rap name. Anyways,
I
folks,
think-
that's Box Office Pulp. Let's get the hell out of here. That's a wrap. I'm not even giving Mike a chance to rebut. Get out of here. Scram.
Game over.
Game over.
Game over.
Did you put marbles in your mouth just so you could do that right?
His name's Costas.
You get more out of life when you go out to a movie. Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
This here show is brought to you by Zencastr, the all-in-one solution for podcasting that's easy as logging in and hitting record. With Zencastr, you get studio-quality sound up to 4K video right from your browser. No more worrying about unstable connections. Thanks to Zencastr's multi-layered backups that ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality. But that's not all. Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound like a pro. It automatically removes those pesky ums and ahs and even those awkward pauses in conversation. If only it could remove those from my love life. But gone are the days of needing a bunch of different tools and services to create a podcast. Zencastr's complete platform lets you create, edit, and distribute your podcast all in one place, allowing you to easily publish to Spotify, Apple, and all other major destinations. So why wait? Start your podcasting journey with Zencastr today and experience the Zen of podcasting. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BOXOFFICEPULP, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.